And good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Money in the Law, My FM 101.3 with your host, Jay Marson. Yes. He's from the Marson Law Group, dressed in blue today, matching his eyes.
Nice.
I, too, am in uniform. I'm John Drouin from Main Effort Financial, wearing blue, matching Jay's eyes.
That's right.
And we are joined, of course, by Tom Harmon, the Holliston Hub HCAT executive producer of Money in the Law, and arguably the lowest handicap, times 5
in the Metro West, greater
divided
Metro
by
West
5.
area.
However, the math works on that, where he has a really low handicap compared to yours, and
Absolutely
of course
true.
compared to mine.
Yep.
On Money in the Law, we oftentimes talk about golf. We
Yes, we
talk
do.
about music.
Yep.
We talk about anything that we think is funny, and we will tell jokes and tell inside jokes that none of you will get, and we think, oh wow, this is great radio and great TV.
Yep.
And then every now and again, we will dabble in a little bit of things that have to do with the law,
Sure.
or things that have to do with money.
Yep.
So,
Hence the name.
therefore, we beg you to stay with us and
Hang in there.
and enjoy the next 50 some odd minutes, because we will take you on a journey, as we do every Saturday morning, to places that maybe you don't want to go to. Maybe you've been there and you're like, no thanks,
No
I wouldn't
thanks.
like to
No,
visit.
thank you very much.
Or there's that small percentage of you that may say, I really wanted to learn about
There's
that
a
today.
There's a nugget of information in there that I found helpful.
And that's
needed.
That is what we do. We are your hosts on Money in Law. Tom is your executive producer, and we are here for you.
That's like a real public radio vibe.
It
going
was.
on right there. Is that because it's August and everyone's kind of like in vacation mode?
And I'll tell you
and
why.
everyone's just
And I'll
chilling
tell you.
out?
I'll tell you the genesis of this.
Okay.
It's because I watched a couple of our shows the other day. I reviewed some Money in Law, and oftentimes I fail to.
Sure.
But I reviewed the music edition, of course, just because I wanted to see how good we sounded. And you know what? There was some promise.
Nice.
There. I'll give us
Yep,
that. There
that's
was
right.
We didn't embarrass ourselves.
No.
Are we ready to go on the road? We need some
Let's
work.
not go van shopping just yet.
But just the actual watching the show, and and watching the delivery, the conversation back and forth, it's probably good to review. And
Nice.
One of the things that I found is I feel like oftentimes when I get excited about something, and I think most people do, I start to talk really quickly.
Yes.
And so when you're standing here talking to somebody, like I'm talking to you right now, and I start to talk quickly, and you get what I'm talking about.
Sure.
Somebody listen to this on the radio, they'll be like, what is he talking about?
It doesn't sound that loud when you're
I'm trying to-
literally in the zone,
I'm
right?
I'm downshifting a little bit just so I can enunciate my words a little better. And I will say this: you sound great. Of
course.
Yeah, you sound
Of course,
good.
you know.
But you're a seasoned professional. You're a
That's
lawyer,
true. That's
right?
true.
You have to. You only get one shot, right? You only
I'm a
get
lawyer
one-
who's in love with the sound of his own voice.
That's right, and it sounds good. So as I said, we are Money in the Law. We talk about things that have to do with your legal world and things that could affect you, particularly in the form of estate planning.
Sure.
My partner is an accomplished estate planner, and elder law too. So people who are older, who have older relatives and want to learn about something that's that could affect them or could affect their parents or their loved ones. This is why you listen. And then we talk about money. And why do they call it money? Everybody loves money. That's
why they call it money. That's right.
But most of the time, we talk about stuff that has nothing to do with that.
There's a lot of random banter, a lot of room for random banter.
And I came in today was because I had a bit of an axe. I have some axes to grind. Some of them personal, some of them not so personal. But just some of the events that have happened over the past week since we saw each other last. We had company come over. So if you remember a couple years back, because I reviewed this too with him. We had gone to England. Haley and I had gone to England, and we visited some of her relatives. And I talked about my two bros, right?
Yep.
My two.
Yes, you did.
So one of said bros came to visit and stay with us.
Came to
this
return the
past
favor.
week.
Yep.
He's back, right?
Yep.
So it was my lawyer bro, right?
Yep.
Simon
Barrister.
Johnson,
Yep.
who oh by the way, right? He's a solicitor.
Yep.
Oh by the way. He desperately wants to call into this show.
I bet he does.
I
bet he does.
And I mean, and I was saying this, we were joking with him. I go, when I look at you, you are every English guy. Like, you are the stereotypical Englishman. He goes, I know. He goes, I am. He goes, I have shaved head. He goes, I talk really smart, and I'm eloquent the way I sound. I'm very witty, and all I want to do is drink tea or beer, and that's all. And that's all I need to do. So
that's not a bad move.
And he's as I said before, he's an insurance lawyer, so he's like, I just want to talk. And this was the first time he'd ever seen you.
Yep.
So I think that he's immediately like, I think he and I could be friends.
Yes, we probably could.
So
Yes, we probably could.
so Simon wants to call in on the show, and I'm like, well, we don't have that many call-ins because we record. And he goes, John, when would be appropriate for me to call in? Perhaps on a Wednesday. Right? And I'm like, well, I'll let you know.
We'll work out the details.
That's what I said.
We'll work out the details on that. Yep.
So we had company come over, and we had a big kind of family reunion for Haley's family, and Haley's nephew, my nephew, John Marshall. I will go unnamed. Oh no, maybe I just said it.
Too late.
Yeah, John Marshall. I have a big axe to grind, and I'm grinding this axe publicly.
Right now, let's go.
Right
Grind away.
Right now. So John, and again, I love this young man as if he were my own son. However, he told me that he doesn't like his music or doesn't care for him. He hates, with a capital H, Bruce Springsteen.
Whoa.
And I'm like,
whoa.
Where is this coming from? And he had put it this way.
Maybe had a beverage.
Put it this way. My nephew is not afraid to get rid of all the excess Bud Lights that are in my refrigerator.
Let me help you out here.
You want me to get Uncle John? You want me to get rid of some of these for you?
Make some room in the fridge for you.
Yeah.
Yep.
So and we had this conversation, and he's like, they all sound the same. All of his music is just yachty. He's not a good singer, and I don't know what to say. I'm flabbergasted.
It's one of those, like, you're so taken aback by the initial response,
crushed,
that you're like, where do I even start to begin to like push back against this tide?
Right, and that's what it felt like. Yep. It felt like the tidal wave coming in, and like, how do I stop this madness? I almost called an ambulance.
Right.
Like, what is wrong? Like,
something's
wrong.
One of the two. Yeah.
Or get the out
You're
of
not
here.
staying here.
Yeah, you don't have to go home.
That's right.
But you can't stay here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So and this is the kicker of it is, so when we had traveled with these guys before, and we're in the car. We're in the car, and all of a sudden, do you remember the song by Mark Cohn, "Walking in Memphis"?
I do.
Classic song, right?
Yep.
Great song.
Yep.
But do you remember the first time you heard it? You're like, you know what that sounds a lot like? That's got to be a Springsteen song,
Could be.
right? Because it's got
Could be.
that same like roll, the same rhythm, the same sound, like the kind of the deep voice. And I'm like, and when we were driving, that song comes in. He goes, "This is my favorite song. This is my jam. And it's like his walk-up song, like to everything he does."
See, now that type of musical hypocrisy, I think I would struggle with. I think I would struggle with.
That's why I'm talking about it right now to you guys.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, help me.
Probably one of the most prolific songwriters of our generation, and I mean, I'm not sure I can get into all the songs sound the same. Now, hold on. If the answer is all the songs that I listen to, meaning John listens to, sound the same, that's a different animal.
Yeah.
But I don't think you go through
songs.
Yeah, I don't think you go through the Springsteen catalog and pull Nebraska, Lucky Town, Darkness on the Edge of Town, and The River off the shelf and say these all sound the same.
Right, which is 20% of his albums.
Right. Yeah, that's right. I just think that maybe that's a little bit different. I guess
he needs help. He needs, when I say professional help, you and I are professionals.
I mean, there's like a borderline musical intervention that needs to occur there.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
And it's going to happen. It may result in him maybe getting, his brother will help me. We'll like tie him down, and you're going to get Bruce Springsteen, kind of like that, that
like
Clockwork
that scene from
Orange
Clockwork
kind
Orange.
of.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You're going
to learn
up here.
Yep.
Eye drops, keep them moving, and then be like, hold on 1 second. And by the way, here's the other thing that I find fascinating about that. There's no easier time in, I think, recorded history where you can go and see, like, with a couple of swipes, all kinds of different stuff.
Right.
Right? I mean, you don't even have to look that hard anymore. This isn't like, you know what, 25 years ago, John, you're coming over the house, I have 50 bootlegs that will prove you wrong, right?
No.
Now you're like, well, I got a phone. Hold on, let's look at some YouTube stuff.
I have this-
Let's go old school.
this app called YouTube.
Yeah, and we have some stuff from way back in the day, and then we have. I mean, he's been all over the.
Well, that's the other thing. I mean, we didn't even talk about live. We didn't even talk about performing. We didn't even talk about
stop. How do you even begin that
Right.
conversation?
So Springsteen's his recordings, his music, is just his pure music. As you said, arguably one of the greatest American songwriters of all time.
Yeah. Right.
Of all time. And then take it a step further, and you could make the argument that he could be the greatest American performer, if not one of the top 3 greatest live performers ever.
Yeah.
Ever to walk this earth and ever to walk again. Which is also what bothers me, because have you heard the kind of Taylor Swift kind of link in, like the loose link that, oh well, Taylor Swift's like Bruce Springsteen, she does 3-hour concerts, she's great live, and I'm like, just please stop.
Well, it's a different show.
Nothing against Taylor Swift.
Look, I've seen them both, and it's a different show. Like
Yeah.
they're both wildly entertaining, and I get it. And I'm coming from it. When I go to a Springsteen show, I'm coming from like deep in the well.
From
Right? There's a lot of like emotional baggage that goes with that show.
Yeah,
right?
it's called your lifetime.
That's right. That's right. And I have a whole different response to the Taylor Swift thing because of my daughters and all that stuff. So it's a different. But yes, I understand. I understand where she's coming, where people are coming from when they make that analogy, because for those of you in the room who might be slightly north of 50, there was a window of time there where you would go to see a show, and if you got an hour, that was a big deal. I'm not going to name any performers, but there was, and then that's
Michael Jackson, name any performers. Yeah.
but that's when Springsteen's shows were beginning their legendary status, where like we could be here all night, right? And so now, okay, so great, that's fine. Why would you do it that way?
Again, and I'll say this, and this is my argument to that, is like, that's great. She does 3-hour concerts. She's an incredible entertainer. So like the audience, like the live performance is that like earth moving for you. Do it for another 30 years. Do it for 30 years, and do it consistently for 30 years. And oh, by the way, make new music that doesn't sound like it did 30 years ago for the next 30 years, and keep doing it. And then when you're not even when you're 74, where you're out there doing it, do it when you're 54.
Yeah.
Like give it 20 years. And if you're still doing it, then you are well on your way.
Yep.
He's 74 years old, and he does 3-hour concerts. And you know who takes breaks during the concerts? The audience. You know who's not? Him.
Right. That's right.
So
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is
that could create some tension at the dinner table. I'm with you.
So for my nephew,
just smack the plate of food
we're
out of his
gonna.
hand.
I may have to bring you. We may have to just show
Double
up
down.
at his house.
Let's double down.
We'll show up, and I'd like to video it all. so we'll bring the Holliston Hub video, and yeah, there's going to be some changes.
Yeah.
There's going to be some education.
There's some
that's going to
checking
happen.
in at the Red Roof Inn is
So
what
John,
there
if you're
is.
listening to this right now, get ready.
Yeah.
Because me
Buckle
and your
in.
Uncle Jay
Yep.
are swinging by.
Yep. Good Lord. God.
All right, so I had to get that off my
I don't
chest.
blame it.
I had to
Get
get that
it
off my
out.
chest.
Get it out.
So what's new with you?
What's new with me? Well, let me think. So we talk about things, all things money, all things law on the show. Ran into a slightly kind of unfortunately condensification of those two topics last week when I had to put my dog down
Oh no!
on Friday afternoon.
What?
Yeah.
I'm finding out about this.
Yes,
Oh,
you are.
I'm so sorry.
Yep. I held off because I wanted it to be a
Oh,
real reaction
no.
from you, and So and the reason that I'm bringing it up on the show is to not elicit sympathy from the audience, but I was thinking to myself the whole time we were going through it. I was like, it's no different. People, pets. We've joked on the show about pet trust in the past and how to handle your pets and all this other stuff, and we're going through it, and it's the same exact situation, same exact 30,000 foot. Like the doctor at one point basically asked us, does Cassius have basically a DNR?
Yeah.
They were asking us about, and I was like, man, oh man, you can't get away from this. Even for pets, you can't get away from it.
shake it. Oh, I'm so sorry.
And you're dealing with, you're at an ER. Do you have do you have pet insurance? Some people have pet insurance, obviously, and you're going through all that stuff. So all of those things. So as a pet owner, for those of you who listen who are pet owners, this is something that we try to talk to our clients about preparing for this. I never in a million years would have had it hit me in the face the way it did, where you're like, this is something that you get a plan for everybody in the house. Everybody in the house needs a plan.
And that is, and it's because Cassius is young, right?
5 years old.
Yeah, so this is the kind of thing that you don't see this coming.
No.
And dogs traditionally, they're kind of built to break your heart anyway, because
Yes,
because they only live 10 or 15 years, depending on like what kind of breed of dog, right?
Yeah, boxers are good for 8 to 10.
Yeah,
and,
so the bigger dogs, right? They're worse, right?
Yep,
So
yep.
and you've been through this already,
Yes,
right?
we have,
Right.
yep.
So this is like, but when you don't see this coming, when they're
No.
5 years old,
No.
and out of the blue, and you're like, it's not like they get hit by a car or anything.
No,
It's just like
no.
they get.
And so we're trying to and we've been through this, this is a crazy analogy, but we've been through this before, with family members that are not pets, right? And so you have to start thinking about like, wait a minute, we have to coordinate. Like the kids aren't in town, we got to coordinate the kids. Like how are the kids going to, sort of have their moment? How are the kids going to be able to sort of, get their time? And where, are we going to? And that was like, oh my God, are we going to do FaceTime? Which brings you back to the COVID window where people are on FaceTime with COVID and all this other stuff. And so we had to coordinate all of that, and then you got to figure out like, all right, where are they going to go, right? Which ER are they going to go to? Is it Angel Memorial? Are they going to a place in Natick? Are they going to go to Tufts and Grafton? All of the same. I was just, I was obviously personally very tied up in everything we had going on, but the analogies to what we talk about on a daily basis with our clients, the analogy it just struck me as so
and you wouldn't
so interesting.
Right, and you wouldn't think it, right?
No.
You wouldn't think, oh, it's just a dog, right?
Yep.
And how many times you just said that? But it's not just a dog.
No, it's not just. It's a member of your family.
It's a part of your family.
Yes, member of your family.
And it's a part of your family that everybody is connected to, and and you could make a strong argument. It's the part of your family that, if you add it all up, like gets you upset the least, right? The one that is the least amount of work for, like, compared to everybody else in the family,
yeah,
like, right?
Yeah.
I think of my own personal maintenance level versus my dog's maintenance level. I mean, if my wife could just put me in the cage for a good part of the day, feed me twice a day, and then all I do is, like, every now and again, maybe I'll chew up a sock or I'll be on the couch when I shouldn't be.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not too bad.
Yeah.
Oh, that's sad news.
Sad news, tough run for him. But like I said, I was just amazed at how consistent the feelings were, how consistent the conversations were, how consistent the decision-making process. Certainly, I'm not equating. It's not 100%.
It's not.
It's not apples to apples.
No.
But if you've been through it, or if you're going through it, it's a lot of very, very similar thoughts, feelings, ideas, concepts, and conversations.
Right.
It was amazing to me.
Right, and it's a dog, right? So the dog, and we've gone through it as well. It's certainly not on the same level.
That's not a parent. It's not a. That's right. That's right. I'm not saying it is.
We're not. We know you're not saying that. We're saying that. But it's you're making decisions kind of that are now driven. A lot of it is driven through emotion, right?
Oh, yeah.
And that's where things get hard. And so you kind of multiply that times 100 or 1,000 when you're talking about people and family members, and you have to make decisions about your parents. You have to make decisions about like loved ones that and they're hard decisions. And you're overcome by emotion about it anyway.
Yes.
So it kind of all comes back to, if you have some sort of a plan in place, and using like Cassius's analogy, Cassius is a 5-year-old dog. You don't expect to have to deal with this right now, right? That can is, I don't even have to kick it down the road. It's already down there. I don't have to start kicking it yet, right? Yeah. But then something like that happens, and you have these. And how many times have you seen in your practice where you have these untimely deaths, people, these almost sometimes tragic, sometimes where you don't see it comes out of the blue, or someone gets sick, or someone gets incapacitated out of the blue, and now I have to make this decision, and we have to make these hard decisions, but I'm still trying to deal with my own feelings. I'm starting to deal with my own emotion of it.
Oh my God, yeah.
And
yeah.
so, and how much more difficult that is. Where, you can say, well, if you had some sort of a structure, some sort of kind of like a base, blueprint or a framework of how to kind of what this next step or what the procedure is going to be, it's so much easier, and it's so much more. It makes it so much easier for everybody else.
And the information that's coming at you is coming at you what it feels like light speed.
Yeah.
Right. And unless you're in the business, you have to slow it all down. You have to ask the questions. You need to have it repeated back to you. You need to have all the options laid out for you. You need to understand exactly, what your next steps might look like. Where does it go from here? When do you get to the point where you say to yourself, this is pretty much as good? I guess I was not amazed, but I was startled. Maybe I was amazed by how much of the experience we have literally had, and I'm using the same language that we are using for my beloved dog that we would use that I've used for loved ones in my real life, and that we've had a conversation with clients about. These are the things that you need to figure out. I mean, I've said to my clients 100 times, somebody's health is going to drive this plan, right? And then that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Somebody's health, right, is going to drive this plan. Where are we going? What can we do? It was, like I said, just a reminder of the overlay that you have to sort of apply to these types of scenarios. It was just a wild experience again, and to have to deal with all the same things. And I just was amazed at how consistent the feelings, the emotions, the questions, all of it was in the same exact way that we do it on a regular basis,
right?
And that we've done it on a regular basis.
Yeah, and it's just that kind of that classic grieving where you're in denial or you're angry, right? I mean, it's so instinctively to get angry at the dog. Like, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing this to me? Like, why are you sick? And why, you're 5 years old, and
you're thinking to yourself, wait a minute, hold on. You're telling me that there's a canine cardiac team in Seattle that specializes in this, and they could be on a flight, and how long would it take to get them there? And how much would it cost to get them there? And by the way, none of that's covered by insurance?
Yeah.
Are we going to go through that?
You start talking
sure,
yourself
you do start
that.
talking to yourself. You start processing all that stuff in your head. It's pretty wild. It's pretty wild.
And again, it's like kind of those sudden losses, right? Where one day it's this, and the next day it's something different. And because of the effect it has on your family, like your children, right? Your children are they're not home, right? They're not there, so you have that issue to deal. Like, well, wait a minute, that's that's my baby, that's Cassius. And then they have to kind of manage that, and if they don't have the ability to get home before you have to do it, there's that piece of it, and that's
there's
hard.
that consideration that was never on my radar screen. Like, that's
what
not
am I doing? Yeah,
it's not going to happen at an inconvenient time. That's just not how these things work. They always happen at a convenient manner.
It'll always be. It'll always be. Everybody will be home. And we'll be home for a couple of days. So I've already spent some time.
Plenty of lead time. We'll know exactly what's coming. We'll see exactly what's happening. Absolutely right. And
that is very sad. I'm very sad for you guys.
Yeah, thanks.
And
it's very heartbreaking.
because Cassius was a good dog, right? And Cassius had spent many a time in this studio.
Yes, he has.
Right,
Yes,
and I remember when Cassius was a baby coming in because I remember that there was the I have to take my dog with me because I could either leave him in the office, let him bark at the girls, or I could bring him into the show. So that is sad. All right. So on that sad note, we're going to take a quick break. All right, and if we could get a picture of Cassius and put him up on the screen during the break. Those of you. Cassius is a wonderful, gorgeous boxer. So if you've never met him, picture in your mind that good dog. We're going to take a quick break and we'll come right back.
We'll be right back.
Oh, it's sad.
And we're back. My FM 101.3. Jay Marsden with the Marsden Law Group. John Drohan, Main Effort Financial. Tom is on the bag. And we're here talking about all things money, all things law. We were just talking about, prior to the break, we were talking about how we recently, in my family, we had a tragedy. We had a beloved dog, boxer by the name of Cassius, and he had a health event last week, and we unfortunately had to put him down. And we were talking before the break about how that process, those feelings, we're sitting in the hospital room with the doctor, and she's laying out the options for us. My wife's a nurse, and I'm looking at her. She's taking all the medical info inside, and she's processing all that, and I'm looking for her to translate that for me. And then, like I said, the doctor basically asked us, does your dog have a DNR? And I was like, these are the same exact conversations.
It seems
you would
weird,
have.
but yeah.
Yes,
That's
and
a weird couple.
It's an experience,
Yeah.
is my point, and it was just very amazing. And if you've been through it on a personal note, you find out that there are lots of similarities to the way you feel, and lots of similarities to the approach about where do you go, how do you process, how do you kind of analyze the decisions. It was pretty amazing.
Well, that's and these places that these hospitals that where kind of these things happen,
Sure.
they're used to this.
Yeah.
They know how this works, and of course, because people love their pets so much, they're very humanized in many ways, right?
Oh, have you ever been to Grafton, to the Tufts place in Grafton, the hospital, the
We
ER?
haven't been to the Tufts in Grafton. No.
It's when you walk and they were, first of all, they were great.
Yeah.
I give a shout out to the people at Tufts at Grafton. They were super. But when you walk in, you and I don't know why it would feel any different. You feel like you're walking into you are walking
Regular
into
hospital.
an ER, right? Just different patients.
Yeah.
But you feel like you're walking into a hospital. I mean, there's a waiting room. There's a check-in area. I mean, there's people coming and going. There's a part where you can't get in the back because that's where all the care is being given and all the
Right.
care is being helped. And then they come out and they bring you back, and the rooms are the same. If you've ever been through that experience with a person, the experience is very, very similar at that level, and it was amazing. It was amazing to see that. It's not just going to your local vet, right?
Yeah.
It's next level stuff.
And the people have kind of dealt with those places, those
Sure.
kind of high end or higher speciality places,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
They're not cheap, right?
Nope.
For those of you who own pets and had to deal with them, oftentimes, if you've had your dog has had to have surgery for
Sure,
something, right?
yeah.
You walk out of there like, oh my God, right? And
Yep.
you had mentioned earlier about pet insurance, which is kind of becoming more and more of a thing
Yep.
because people are because the pets are part of the family, right? So, and I'm sure when they were laying out the options, say one of the options is we could potentially do something about this.
That's right.
We could potentially, have your dog have open heart surgery.
Sure.
Which, you're like, wow, open heart surgery for my dog. That's crazy. Number one, that's crazy. Two, they know how to do that.
Right.
And three, and that's going to cost how much? You're like,
Yeah.
Then it's, but there's a market for it.
Yes.
There's a market for it, and not in a bad way, but in a good way because people care about their pets.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
And
That's right.
and so that's the reality of it is pets they're not people, they're property, right?
That's right.
And
Yep.
so in the full legal, so when they say does your dog have a DNR, they really don't have a DNR
No, they don't.
because they're property. Like your car doesn't have a DNR,
Right.
although some cars, we'll talk about that too.
Yeah.
Some cars might have a DNR, or some cars might not have
That's
a
right.
DNR.
That's right.
And some cars are like, nope, whatever it takes, get
Yes,
that
whatever
thing
it takes,
rolling
throw
again.
money in it. Throw money
Right.
in it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So but the fact that they kind of put it in that language and they put it in that kind of setting or that mindset that they treat you that way.
Yes.
That
Oh, yeah.
there's a lot. That's what you pay for.
Look, they're humanizing the care for all the right reasons, right?
Yep.
Because that's probably the best way. I'm assuming that they're the experts, and that's the best way to deliver it. But I guess my point is, you on the receiving end of that have to be ready for that to happen to you.
that question.
And for that analysis to need to happen on your end, because if you've never gone through it from a personal perspective with a family member who wasn't a pet, this is going to come at you, and it's going to be a very it's going to be a different experience. You're probably going to be unprepared for it if you haven't given it any thought. And given what you mentioned before about the age of people's pets and how long the people's pets live, it might be something you deal with as almost like a test run to what might happen later on in life.
Yeah.
Right. As crazy as it sounds, a couple years back when my dad was sick, we had a boxer at the time, and he was also sick, and he had the same thing my parents had, or my dad had, and we felt like the universe was giving us an opportunity to wrap your head
God.
around some of these things, because this is also coming. And so you're going to go through this, and if you've never been through it, it's going to feel the same way.
Yeah, those feelings are the same.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Like that feeling of loss, that feeling of regret, that feeling of I wish I had more time. All of those, those are normal things that you're going to feel because like we said, you love the dog. Like you love the dog, and as much of it, like with our pets that we've had, the kids. At the end of the day, you care about your kids, right? And you care about that. You want them to be happy. The dog is part of that family.
Sure he is. It's part of that social circle.
As part of that, like when we take pictures, where's the dog?
That's right. That's right.
Or when we're doing something, where's that guy?
He's on the Christmas. He makes the Christmas card. They make the Christmas card, right?
Every time.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was like I said, you're gonna though that will be part of the project. You'll have to go through the same exact. How's it going to work? All the same things. And I was, like I said, I was just I found it. Very from a planning perspective, I was like, this sounds
another thing
to
plan for.
This sounds
right?
very familiar.
Yeah.
I feel like we've been down this path before. I feel like we've had these conversations.
You're like, why am I not in my conference room right now?
Yeah, why am I not billing somebody for this? That's right. That's exactly right. So it was wild. So we'll leave it at that. But like I said, for those of you who are hugging your dogs and your pet's really close right now, like I said, it's part of the conversation. I know it sounds crazy. Last thing you want to hear from your lawyer is there's more planning to do.
Yeah,
just what you
there
just
you
said.
go, right.
Let's put some more things to plan about and worry about. But again, for those of you who, for the uninitiated in this department,
just to be clear,
the
Marsden Law Group is not specializing in doing like living dog trusts or anything.
We do pet trusts. We do them, but
not ones that your dog is actually. There's going to be a paw print where your dog signs it.
But let's think about this. Let's say if you did leave somebody. Yeah, you mentioned it a minute ago. If you did say to somebody, "Look, if something happens to me, I want you to be in charge of my whatever those pets look like," and then one of those pets gets sick, and you care about your pet so much that you made it part of your estate plan, and then down the road, to your point, somebody gets sick, your pet gets sick. They walk into it's not cheap, it's not inexpensive, it costs. So for planning around these types of things, there's a real if it means that much to you, build it into your plan. Because,
and I think that's the lesson to carry from here, right? Is that pets are real.
Yes, they are.
They're real in the sense that they're part of they're an important part of your life, right? And
yes.
So and like when my mom lost her dog, it was a big deal, and it came at a point, and so my mother lives alone, and it came at a point where she's like this, and unfortunately, he was a good dog too, and he was a good dog, and he died young, and it was a kind of an unexpected thing, and for her, she's like, this is too much of a life change for me to really get my head around right now, and aside from like all the the sadness of the dog loss, it's the sadness of or it's the change of like where now I don't have that companion,
right.
And for my mom, that was her companion, right? Like the dog was, because she's most of the time she's up there by herself.
Yeah.
So if you have something like that is that important to you, then it has to be part of you. You have to kind of don't make it not part of your plan. And
to your point, if it means that much to you, and for all the reasons, in many cases, it does, right? It's somebody's companion. They spend a lot of time alone. They got the dog for company and to have a presence in their life, and they are really attached to. I mean, we've had clients that couldn't go to nursing homes, couldn't go to assisted living facilities because they wouldn't let the dog go.
Right.
They said, "Look, the dog. We're a package deal, right? It's me and the dog, and if there's no accommodation for the dog, then I'm not going, right? So you need to."
It seems unreasonable at the time, right? But then you're like, well, it is what it is, right? And we, my mom and I have had this like conversation. So when she got when she got the new dog, it's like I'm like, really? Like,
it's a 15-year commitment.
Like, and do you really? Do you want to have like with all the work that comes, because we all know the dogs come with work, and she's like, yeah. Like it's this is what I need. Like this is very important to me, right? And when someone says I can't go to this assisted living facility if they don't take dogs, because this is very important to me. So this is going to limit my options. If it does, so be it. Right. Because that's how important that is. And when we talk about building your plan and kind of building your retirement plan and your post-retirement plan and all of that, all of the planning that we preach at you every single week.
Sure.
if something's important to you, if there's something that, for instance, if your dog is older,
Yep.
right, and that probably doesn't have that much more, that much more gas in the tank, then part of that plan could be, well, if when that dog passes away, are you going to get another dog?
Right.
And for some people, like my mother, it was a
question.
no-brainer.
Yeah, no
Yep,
question.
nope, I'm
Yeah.
getting another dog, and we had trouble getting our heads around it. Me and my brother and sisters, we were like, yeah, it seems like that it's just going to be too much work for you now that you're by yourself. It's a
Yeah.
bit, and she was like,
Well, but what if
That's it.
what if the person who wants to get the dog has real physical limitations that make taking care of the dog problematic?
Right.
Right? So, it's not just about can you get up and down the stairs? Now it's can you and the dog get up and down the stairs?
Right.
And and if you have balance issues or walking issues or hip issues, should a dog be running around your place? And if the dog gets underfoot, is it going to be a fall risk? Right? I mean, because you want to make sure that you're not creating a dangerous situation out of a situation that's supposed to be bringing positivity to the table,
Right.
Positivity, PAW, get to positivity.
Not too
Bring-
shabby.
But
we're gonna if we on TV
put that right across the bottom,
PAW,
positivity.
with in quotations.
But
yeah.
but again, somebody says, look, you know what? I want to get another. I'm 80 years old and I want to get another dog. Well, what kind of dog are you going to get? Well, if you get a small dog, they tend to live a long time. You get a bigger dog, they don't live as long, but they might need more care, right?
They might need more care,
And so might you.
As you start to get older, you might need more care. So,
right.
so one of the potential solutions to kind of make this all work is, I really want to get a pet. So then the answer could be, okay, you're going to get a pet, but you know what that pet's going to be? It's going to be trained, and not like trained like it comes when you show it a treat.
Right.
Like trained like
Legit
when you say whatever the command is, that dog sits there and does it. And again, because the safety issues, that's a real thing, right? If
Yep.
your dog is out of control and you're gonna, it's gonna trip, you're gonna fall down the stairs,
Yeah.
and you're by yourself, that's a real worry. And it's a worry that we have, we don't want my mom to fall
Sure,
if she's
absolutely,
by herself,
yeah.
right?
Well, if the dog is big and the dog's too strong, right? You can't take the
You
dog
can't
for a
take
walk
for a walk
the
because
dog's
it'll
too
see
strong.
another dog.
Yep.
So there's all of these things. Again, if it's important to you, like if it's important for you to live in your house for as long as you can, like any of these things that you have that are important to me as I age and as I'm in retirement, one of those things could be to be a dog. And with all of that comes the fact that your dogs usually don't live as long as you do.
Yep.
And the fact that your dog could need extra care at some point. And the fact that if your dog isn't trained, it could be a potential safety hazard for you where you can't live with the dog.
Well, and the ongoing cost maintenance, the cost of vet
And the cost
visits,
of the dog.
right? The cost of vet visit. And do you have access? Some people say, look, I don't drive anymore, right? So I don't drive anymore, and then I have my own doctor's appointments. Do I have the ability to take my dog to their own vet appointments, or just the cost of purchasing the dog? Or am I going to get a rescue dog? Am I going to get a dog from a breeder? Or the different issues around what would happen if something happens to me? Who's going to take the dog? Everybody else might not love dogs. They might not want to take on mom or dad's dog, right? There's those types of issues that can come up, and the other thing is we always talk about flexibility, right? So if you say to yourself, well, if you want to get a dog, that's fine. But you know what? We've already talked about if you couldn't stay here, what would happen? So do we have to explore if you were to leave and go to an assisted living facility? Do they allow pets? What's their size limit? Right? They may say, look, we don't allow anything greater than bigger than 8 pounds, for example. Right? Okay, so no more Great Danes. We're done. Right? We're done with that.
No more Great Danes. No more anything.
Right?
Right?
Yeah. I don't know what's left at that point, but yeah, that's the idea, right? So these are the types of issues that come up around the pets because they're family. They're family.
And their family. And the problem with them, and I've said this my whole life, the problem with dogs is once you get them, and this is like from the day when you pick that dog up. When you go, have you ever had a dog? Golden Retriever, right?
There you go.
Right? Arguably one of the smartest animals that ever walked the face of the earth.
Friendliest, right?
Maybe not. We've had Goldens. And all our Goldens have been dumbest bag of hammers. I'm sure yours was
Genius.
bright. Yeah. But as you know, like the day that dog comes home, you're like, okay, look at how cute this thing is. It'll never do anything wrong. It's so cute. Oh, look, it did pee-pee on the paper.
Right,
Oh, what a
right,
good
yep,
dog.
yep.
And then the rest, of course, is dog history.
Yep.
You know what happens, but you fall in love with it.
The minute they come across the threshold.
Yep, you fall in love with it, and it just gets worse and worse and worse because you love that dog more and more. Because, as we all know, for those of you who have had like successful dog ownerships, nothing in that house loves me more than that dog.
That's right.
Right? Nothing in that, like my kids, my wife, nothing. That dog will just sit there and stare at you for 5 hours.
Gosh,
and
yep.
And I don't mean to
No,
bring you down there.
No, I'm with you. No,
but
I'm
that's
with you.
it.
Yeah.
The dogs are they're so great, and they're so loyal, and they're so they're so loving, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
So you have this kind of this emotion and this thing that comes into your house, and it grows and grows and grows, and it's more and more and more, and before you know it, like as we said, that dog's part of your family.
Yes.
As much part of your family as your day-to-day operations as anything else. And knowing full well that they're on the clock, right? They're on the clock. Yep. But just like everything, I'm not worried about that. And the same thing with like people. Like you and I, we're not thinking about, oh, well, if we die tomorrow, right?
Right,
But
right.
in the estate planning business, you talk about it, and that's
around it all day.
how many times have you said it, right? We talk about it, but we like talking about it when we don't have to, when we're not thinking about it. When
right.
it is down, and it's so much easier to talk about, right? It's so much easier to plan for. So, when you get that dog, you're like, okay, well, someday that dog's not going to be. We're not making that plan right now.
No, and I'm not suggesting that you need to. I'm just suggesting that if you find yourself having to make that plan, it's going to sneak up on you. Like they always do.
Yeah, even
right?
if they're old, right?
That's right. That's right.
Because you're like, oh no, she's fine.
You hear that all the time. Oh, they're slowing down. They're slowing down. They're slowing down. And then you just need to understand, what does slowing down look like, right? What does slowing down look like? Wait, well, they're not moving as quick as they used to. And again,
we're all slowing down.
It's all this is my point. It's all the same language, right?
Yeah.
So you need to kind of incorporate that discussion amongst yourselves about, A, do we have a plan for the dog? B, if something happens to us, do we have a plan for the dog? And build that in as part of the discussion, because it's gonna sneak up on you. You're gonna say to yourself, I never would have guessed I had to think about that. I'm just, like I said, I never would have guessed I had to think about that. And I'm in the business.
And you think
and
about it.
I was thinking to myself,
that's what you do
I
for a
wasn't
living.
planning on thinking about that this week, So that's out there. It's
all
out
right.
there.
So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I have some theories on how to just make this all better.
Of course you do.
Make this all like, let's put this all into perspective and make this all like, so we can all drive on and fight
the good fight.
Fight to the next hilltop. All right. Don't go away. We'll be right back on Money in the Law.
And we're back. Money in the Law,
Yeah.
My FM 101.3. Jay Marsden with the Marsden Law Group, John Drohan, Main Effort Financial. Tommy driving us around on the cart today. And we were talking about.
You think this was the what? And I don't even know the programming. When is the pet person? When is she on?
I'm not sure.
She might be on right
she's on.
before
Yeah.
us.
Yeah, maybe,
you may want to.
I might get a
Ray,
call from her.
Ray, you may want to mix up the scheduling, because then people aren't going to want to talk about after they listen to her.
Well, I'll tell you this right now. So we would sort of casually invite this conversation with clients, right? We would just say, I don't think we focused a lot of attention on it, unless somebody said to us, we have a farm. Then we would ask about, what about animals? What kind of farm is an ongoing concern? Is it a business? Is it, just a hobby? What are we doing right now? So we're talking during the break real quick, and you're like, so, where do you go from here? Where you go from here is you have a conversation about it, right? And you say to yourself, to your point, pets are personal property. So you got to figure out, if something happens, how are you going to handle it, right? How old is the dog? Well, the dog's 15, right? How old are you? 70. All right. Well, there's a probability that you, just like every conversation, the dog might not become an issue. We don't know, right?
There's actuarial tables that for
tell
dogs
us
as well.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Social Security has a dog actuarial
they do.
table.
They do.
But that would tell you, hey, is this something we have to worry about? But think about it, right? The kids leave the house. Empty nest syndrome settles in. There's nobody around to take care of anymore. And so what are we going to do? We're going to go get a dog or a pet, some pet of some nature, and some are more long-lived than others. And so you need to then have that conversation. I had a buddy one time that had he had a parrot. And I said to him, what?
Of course he did.
I said,
I wonder where he's from. Southern Florida. Weird.
I said,
no one has parrots down here.
how did you end up with a parrot? And he goes, well, let me tell you how we ended up with a parrot. We ended up watching the parrot for somebody who went on a vacation. And then they just never came back.
Never came back from
Never
vacation.
came back.
And left you with the...
Left him with a parrot, right? Notoriously not
Happens
long
all the
lived,
time.
right? Notoriously
Happens all the time.
not long lived, right? So this is the idea. You know, you got to think these things through to say, hey, you know, what am I in for here? You know, how many times have you heard those stories about friends of yours where the kids move out to school, out for college, and they can't take whatever menagerie of pets they've left behind, and now you have to go in there and take care of it, right? So what are you going to do? What are you going to do?
My brother, what are we going to do with my 8-foot boa constrictor? I don't. Who's going to take care of that?
Yeah, well, hey, guess who's feeding a moray eel 3 times a week at the house right now? This guy, right?
Of course.
Why?
You are.
Because somebody wanted one, so now we have one. So now I got to feed it.
Now
So you got to figure out what you're going to do in these situations.
Take that thing for a walk somewhere. Yeah.
Because your
The
pets.
pond.
Your pets you'll have a visceral emotional reaction.
Well, that's it.
If something happens, we're trying to be as humanly possible, as human as we can humanly
As
possibly
human as
be
humanly possible.
in this situation, because this is what's going to happen. You get emotional about them. I cried for 4 days after my dog died. And the only thing that would make me sadder would be to realize that for some reason something happens to me, and he ends up somewhere that he doesn't want to be, and they don't want him, and he doesn't want to be there. And do I want him to go to a shelter? No, none of those things.
I mean, it all, for me, it dumbs down to, and again, just because I'm dumb. Thanks.
Yep. I'm agreeing with you.
You're right. You're right. I'm just.
That's what friends do.
That's what they do, right? That's the tough love. But it all comes down to, when you do an estate plan, when we talk about this, when we talk about or any kind of like planning for the future, it's important to identify what's important. And we when you have those questions, you ask people, what's important to you? What do you want to see when all the dust settles, and what do you picture your retirement to look like? Where do I live? Where am I within proximity of my children? And part of that, which, you know, this is a great reminder kind of for this show, is that part of like your life, because at the end of the day, we say it, my job is to make people happy.
That's right.
My job is to ensure your happiness in retirement, and your job is into retirement and then beyond retirement and beyond your life. So when you die, you know that all of my life's work is going to continue on, and there's going to be something to show for it. And that, you know what, right now while I'm still alive, that makes me happy.
Well, and we've had the same conversation with clients about what do you think people are going to fight about, right? And in many cases, and we've said this a million times to people, they're not going to fight always about the things you think they're going to fight about, right? There's going to be some personal item in the house that brings joy to somebody, and they're going to want to fight with their sibling over that. Is it a cuckoo clock? Is it candlesticks? I don't know what it is. Could it be a black lab?
Is it the Pink Panther diamond? It could be.
It could be.
But it could be, right? It could be an 11-year-old black lab.
It could be a golden retriever. That's right. And so that needs to be part of the discussion.
But not in a flippant way, but for all the right reasons.
Yeah.
Because once it's part of the discussion, just like when you talk about your own, you know, eventual demise, once it's part of the discussion, then it's out there. We say, okay, we know this is going to happen.
Correct.
We know that at some point, mom and dad aren't going to be here anymore.
That's
so
right.
therefore, this is what we want to say. And we're having this discussion now when we feel great. We just got back from the beach. Dad's going to take surfing lessons, all that great stuff. But right now we're talking about it. So now it's happened. And once it's that, you know, I was going to say cat is out of the bag. But in this case, dog is out of the bag.
Cat, dog,
right?
sure, anything.
Once that's out there, then the next time we talk about it, it's not that kind of shock, and not that it, you know, in any way minimizes when you actually experience that loss. No, it's going to happen. You're going to feel pain. All the pain that everybody feels when they have a loss is real and justified, and there's no sugarcoating that. We're not trying to sugarcoat anything. What we're trying to do is say, look, we've identified the things that are important to you. We know you want to live near the water. We know that you want to live within a proximity of your children so you can care for your grandchildren. We also know that you feel really good about having a dog and you love this dog. And if this dog goes, then guess what? You're going to replace that dog with
another one.
You're going to get another dog because you like for my mother, for 60 years, she's had a dog.
Yeah.
There's always been a dog in that house. Now, granted, some dogs are a little better behaved than others, but she's always had a dog, and that dog has been part of her life. And then when she started living alone, it was even more. So that's an important thing.
But depending on where you live, like a lot of these communities a lot of people's communities are agricultural communities. So the idea of the pet extends much greater than just whatever can be kind of encapsulated in the four corners of the house, right? A lot of people out here have barns. A lot of people
talking
out
about
here
like
have
sheepdogs?
It's not about horses. I'm talking about llamas. I'm talking about chickens. I'm talking about like people have space, right? And they go and they have hobbies and they have things and they do a lot of different things. And this is all of the same part of the conversation, which is these things are just as important to, in some cases, more important to you than they are to anybody else, and they need some attention.
I've never owned a llama. However, now
you're more of an alpaca guy?
When you said llama, I'm like, I mean a llama. I could see a llama breaking my heart.
Sure,
right?
sure. Horses, ton of horses out here.
Forget
Everyone's got a horse.
Right. And we have clients that have horses, right?
That's
right. That and horses live a long time.
And I think they do one thing a lot. Oh, that's right, eat.
Yeah.
That's right, they eat a lot. There's always some eating going on, right? A horse does not appear to be an inexpensive undertaking.
No,
right?
They have to live somewhere because they're not living in your garage.
No, and they're not moving into your kid's apartment in the South End, right? They're not doing that, right? I mean, those things have to happen, right?
So,
and if you grew up with them, you have a reaction, you have an emotional connection to these things, and they need to be attended to. Is the idea, right?
They need to be talked about, and that's the takeaway. We need to talk about it.
Yep.
We need to, and it needs to be part of that overall plan.
That's right.
It needs to be. It needs to, even if it's just, I'm going to get a dog. I know dogs are expensive. I have enough money to pay for the dog, and I understand that dog's going to be part of my life.
And I'll leave some extra money to somebody who takes the dog over
if something were to happen.
Understanding there's ongoing maintenance and upkeep and vet bills and food and all these other things, and I want to make sure that it's not a burden for somebody to take on.
Yeah. And that, just like anything else, anything, right? Unlike the parrot, the parrot story, which became probably an incredible burden to that person.
I was over the house. I'm like, dude, open a window. Open a window, right? I mean, what is going on here? Oh, it was making a ton of noise, I'll tell you.
Yeah, I don't know.
And I just said to him, I didn't realize you guys were. And he goes, oh, don't even. He's like, I don't want to talk about it.
That's a great story, though.
Like he was. If I talked about it any longer, I was going over the railing on the deck.
Shot,
right?
Yeah.
That's right. Did not want to talk about it.
All right, so I think we're done.
That gets us there.
I think that gets us there. All right, so sad news. Farewell to Jays Cassius. Great dog. He had a good
dog
run.
Is right.
It was a part of the Money in the Law family.
He was,
right? Definitely,
he was part of the team.
Definitely part of the Marsden Law family. That's for sure.
He was. He was
a lot of time.
Perennial All-Star at 847 Washington Street.
He spent a lot of time down there. So farewell to him. And the takeaway today, like we said, is make that dog, make that pet, or make that thing that's important part of your plan.
Make it part of your plan.
Make it part of your plan. Talk about it, and then it'll make things, I won't say easier, but it'll make things a little bit more.
It'll bring some clarity.
More clear for you. That's
it.
right. That's good. All right. So we'll see everybody next time.
Have a great week, everybody.
On Money in the Law. Don't go away. And also the Hollis and Hub. Tommy, we'll see you next time. Everybody, have a good weekend and drive slow.
Rock on.